a smiling father, a pregnant wife, two little girls who adored their dad. What makes a man wake up one morning, look at the people who love him most, and erase them? It was just before 2 a.m. on Monday, August 13th, 2018, in Frederick, Colorado. Shanann Watts had just returned from a business trip to Arizona. A friend and colleague, Nicole Atkinson, dropped her off. A doorbell camera recorded her walking to the front door, unlocking it, and entering the house. She was 15 weeks pregnant with her third child. Inside the house were her daughters Bella, age 4, and Celeste, age 3. They were asleep upstairs. Her husband, Chris Watts, was also home. Chris Watts was employed by Anadarko Petroleum as an operator. His role included monitoring oil and gas production at remote sites, which gave him access to key cards, GPS locations, and detailed knowledge of the oil storage facilities. The site where the bodies were found was familiar to him and located off a dirt road approximately 45 minutes from the family's home. The next morning, Shanann missed a scheduled obstetric appointment. She did not respond to texts or phone calls. Concerned, Nicole Atkinson returned to the house around midday. Shanann's car was still in the garage. Her phone was later found in the living room, pushed between cushions on the couch. Her purse was in the kitchen. Her keys were still in the house. Nicole contacted the police, who performed a welfare check. Chris Watts arrived home during the check and gave officers permission to enter the house. He said Shanann told him earlier that morning she was taking the girls to a friend's home. He said he had gone to work shortly after 5 a.m. During the welfare check, one officer remarked on Shanann's car being in the garage. Her shoes and medication were also found in the house. These observations raised immediate concern, particularly because Shanann had a documented medical condition, lupus, and never left home without her belongings. Officers requested permission to search the phone and home further. Later that day, Chris gave a televised interview from the driveway, appealing for his family's return. He stated he had no idea where they were and that he wanted them home. On Tuesday, the 14th of August, neighbors provided police with surveillance footage. It showed Chris backing his truck into the driveway around 5:17 a.m. and making multiple trips between the garage and the truck. This contradicted his original statement, which suggested he had left for work shortly after 5 a.m. without anything unusual occurring. Detectives examined the family's home security setup and digital records. They retrieved text messages, call logs, and GPS data from Chris's phone and work vehicle. The GPS showed he had visited the oil site earlier than his co-workers that day, which prompted further scrutiny. Police also pulled up phone data and health app metrics from Shanann's Apple Watch. Investigators also noted inconsistencies in his behavior and responses during questioning. He agreed to a polygraph test, which he failed. Polygraph examiner Tammy Lee confronted Chris with the results, leading to a shift in his demeanor. On Wednesday, 15th August, Chris requested to speak with his father, Ronnie Watts, before further questioning. During this conversation, he admitted to killing Shanann. He initially claimed Shanann had killed their daughters after he asked for a separation and that he killed her in response. Later, Chris admitted to killing Shanann and both children. He was arrested that evening. According to his confession, the murders occurred in the early hours of Monday morning. Chris said he and Shanann argued after she returned home. He told her he wanted to end the marriage. During this argument, he strangled her in their bedroom. An autopsy later confirmed manual strangulation as the cause of death. Shanann had injuries consistent with a struggle, including bruising to her neck. After killing Shanann, Chris wrapped her body in a sheet. Bella and Celeste were still alive. He placed Shanann's body into the backseat of his truck and had both girls sit in the vehicle as well. He drove them to an oil storage site owned by his employer, Anadarko Petroleum. The site was located off a rural road in Roggen, Colorado. He entered the secure gate using his employee key card and parked beside two 400-barrel oil tanks. When they arrived, he removed Celeste from the vehicle, took her to one of the oil tanks, and smothered her with a blanket. He then placed her body inside the tank. He returned to the truck and repeated the process with Bella. According to his later statements, Bella asked him, "Is the same thing going to happen to me as Cece?" and said, "Daddy, no," before she was killed. Chris placed Bella's body in a separate tank. The tanks had narrow 8-inch openings. He forced their bodies through. The oil helped mask the smell and delay decomposition. The depth of the tanks and the toxic environment made recovery especially difficult. He buried Shanann's body in a shallow grave nearby. Then he went to work as usual. He texted with co-workers, attended job-related tasks, and later spoke with police during the welfare check. On 16th August, investigators located the bodies at the oil site. Shanann was found in a shallow grave approximately 70 meters from the tanks. The girls' bodies were recovered from inside the tanks. Both tanks were drained and cut open to retrieve the remains. The opening diameter and the level of decomposition made identification complex, requiring DNA testing and dental records. Autopsies confirmed that all 3 victims died from homicidal violence. Shanann died from manual strangulation. Bella and Celeste both died from smothering. Oil was found in the girls' stomachs and airways, consistent with prolonged submersion in crude oil. On the 21st of August, Chris was formally charged with 9 counts. 3 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. 2 additional counts of first-degree murder for causing the deaths of children under 12 while in a position of trust. 1 count of unlawful termination of a pregnancy, and 3 counts of tampering with a deceased human body. On the 6th of November 2018, Chris Watts pleaded guilty to all charges as part of a plea deal that removed the death penalty as a sentencing option. The decision to accept the deal was supported by Shanann's family. On the 19th of November 2018, Chris was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole. 3 were to be served consecutively and 2 concurrently. He was also sentenced to 48 years for the unlawful termination of a pregnancy and 36 years for tampering with the bodies. He is currently serving his sentence at Dodge Correctional Institution in Waupun, Wisconsin. According to Department of Corrections records, he is housed in protective custody due to the nature of his crimes. Shanann's family buried her and her daughters in North Carolina, where she was originally from. Her unborn son, Nico, was listed on the gravestone. A public funeral was held and attended by extended family and community members. The service included tributes from Shanann's parents and close friends. Her father later made a statement encouraging people to be aware of emotional manipulation and control in relationships. Following the murders, Chris's mistress, Nicole Kessinger, cooperated with the investigation. She told police that she believed Chris was separated and did not know Shanann was pregnant. Her internet search history later revealed she had looked up topics related to marrying a man with children and watched videos about Amber Free, the mistress in the Scott Peterson case. She has since changed her name and left the public eye. Chris gave further details about the murders during a 5-hour prison interview in February 2019. He confirmed he had planned the killings and that the argument with Shanann was not the trigger, but part of a premeditated decision. During the interview, he also described his thought process in the days leading up to the crime and admitted to lying during every interaction with police. Body cam footage, interrogation tapes, courtroom testimony, and phone records formed the basis of the investigation and prosecution. These materials have since been used in documentaries and media reports covering the case. There were no previous domestic violence reports or criminal history linked to Chris Watts prior to the murders. The family appeared outwardly stable and had recently returned from a holiday. Shanann maintained a visible social media presence, frequently posting videos with Chris and their children in the weeks leading up to the incident. The Watts family home in Frederick, Colorado, remained unoccupied for several years after the crimes. It became the subject of public interest, with onlookers regularly visiting the property. The home was eventually auctioned and sold. Its online listing described the layout of the house, showing the master bedroom where Shanann was killed, and the basement, which Chris later used to store items. This case received widespread media coverage, in part due to the availability of recorded footage, Shanann's online presence, and the contradiction between the family's public image and the nature of the crimes. The footage has been examined repeatedly across documentaries, podcasts, and analysis videos. The release of body cam footage and interview transcripts provided a rare level of transparency into the investigation and public reaction. You've been watching the Crim Vault, where we cover true crime cases weekly. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode.